In this video, we're going to see how to work with requisitions that have previously been entered into the system to do things like add a line item, split an item into multiple accounts for payment, how to delete a requisition, how to see the status of your requisitions, that sort of thing. So, we're going to begin from the home page and drill down into Web Advisor for Employees, then Financial Information, and finally, View, Modify, Delete Requisitions. So on this page, we see the requisitions that you have are listed, and for each requisition, they show the number, the date the requisition was created, the status, which can be one of outstanding, meaning it's been approved, but a purchase order hasn't been created yet. It can say PO created if a purchase order has been created for this requisition, and in that case the purchase order number will be shown. And not approved, it can also show not approved, which means that this particular item is pending approval from the next person in your approval chain. Then we've got the requester name, the initiator name, some information about the vendor, the total amount of the requisition, and then these three links allow us to do different things with requisitions, but certain actions are only valid for requisitions that are in a certain status. So for example, I can't receive goods on a requisition that's outstanding because it's not a PO yet. So it says there are no goods or services to receive. Similarly, if I go back to View, Modify, Delete, similarly, if a purchase order has been created, then I can no longer modify the requisition because the purchase order's already been sent. It can't be modified at this stage. I also can't delete a requisition that's been turned into a purchase order. So for these two, if I try to delete this one, for example, it'll tell me a purchase order has already been created for this requisition. So certain options are available depending on the status of the requisition. So this first one that's listed, I'm going to go into Modify. Suppose I want to add another item to this requisition, and because it's still outstanding, I can do that. So I click Modify. Here's the details about the requisition. Here's the single item, line item, that's on that requisition, and then here's the comments and so on, other information. So I want to add a line item, and you can see here we have a choice, number of line items to add. I'm going to set that to 1, and then go down and click Submit. So what I have here is a screen for entering information for a single line item. We haven't seen this one before. It looks a bit like the screen we see for entering a requisition, but in this case we're just doing a single individual line item. So we start by putting in the description. So let's say from Dell on this requisition, I also want to get a latitude E1200. I don't think there's any such thing. This is made up. Vendor item, again, put in the part number there, the quantity 1, the unit of issue. So we see the same choices we saw on the main requisition screen. So I'm going to say each. The price, let's say these are $9.99. Don't worry about these fields at this point. Now you'll notice one thing that is different on this screen is we have multiple rows for cost center and object code for a single line item. So this is one item, but we can split it up across multiple cost centers and object codes. Now, in order for that to work, you have to have access or authorization on all of the items that, on all of the accounts that you are using. So I'm going, for this one, I'm going to choose computers and computer hardware, and then for this next one, I'm going to choose a different object code. Let's say it is what I should have thought of this. Let's say maintenance equipment. Suppose we're going to use this laptop for some maintenance work. So If there's a project ID, again, this is entered here as described in the previous video on entering a requisition. And here I need to split up this $9.99 amount across these two different cost center object code combinations. So let's say that 500 is coming from this one and that 499 is coming from that one. And now I can click submit. And notice there is a warning here, and this is because we only have fake demo information in the system. It's saying that I'm over budget in that account. But now we have two different line items. Here's the two different items described, all of the various details, and my requisition has been modified. The total's been updated and so on. So now I can click OK. And if I go back to View, Modify, Delete Requisitions, I can see, sure enough, there's that first one. It's been changed. The total amount is now the $1,821. So I can also use Modify to go in and take an item out. So suppose we don't need this Optiplex 5000 anymore. I can just choose Delete and then submit it. And so now we just have the single line item left, the Latitude laptop that I just added. I'm going to click OK. And one final thing that we can do is we can modify an existing line. So far I've showed you adding a new line and deleting an existing line. We can also modify a particular line item by choosing Modify here and then Submit. And it brings up this same requisition line item screen that we had before. We can see all the details and we can make any changes that are necessary. I'm just going to click Submit. So this looks good. I'm just going to click OK. Now, there may be times when you want to remove an entire requisition, so not just adding or removing or deleting a line on a requisition, you want to delete the whole rec. And that's what this delete choice is for here. So I'm going to take this requisition that I have been working with in this demo, and I'm going to click delete. And it says, caution, pressing submit will delete this requisition, shows me all the details so I can make sure it's the proper one, and then I choose submit. And that's it, that requisition is now gone. So you can see it's fairly easy to go in and work with requisitions. You do have to be mindful of the status that they're in, because some of these operations are only valid for particular statuses, but as long as you're doing something that's allowed for a requisition in that state, myUPEI makes it fairly easy to get the job done.